to the boardroom. This is the Business of Esports. As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner, YOUGOV, offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YOUGOV's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YOUGOV. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports weekly news show / post-podcast live stream. I am Paul the Prophet Dawalibi. I'm joined today by my friends and co-hosts, the Honorable Judge Jimmy Baratta, Jeff the Juice Cohen, Lindsay the Boss Poss. For those of you who are new here, welcome. What we do is we cover the most pressing gaming and esports topics and news of the week, but we look at all of it through a business and C-suite lens. We dissect, we analyze the business implications of everything happening in the industry. Best of all, we get to do it live with you guys. You get to get in our faces, ask questions, challenge us. We encourage it. If you're in here, definitely get involved. You're welcome to lurk. We don't mind, but definitely get involved if you can. It's a safe space. And we love it. It makes it that much more fun. How is everyone doing this week? Lindsay?
Oh, I just made it to Pittsburgh, just finished the drive like 15 minutes ago and hopped right onto here. And we made the drive. The AC in the car was broken, something we discovered shortly after leaving. So
Oh, no.
it was a long drive. I'm happy to be here.
That is dedication. How are you guys doing?
Why are you in Pittsburgh is the real question.
Hey.
What's wrong with
it? Like, is it your college reunion?
No, I have family here.
Oh.
I don't make fun of you for New Jersey, and that's like the armpit of America. So I don't want to hear it.
It is true.
Jimmy, how you doing this week?
Having a great week, guys. Still a little sick here. Sorry for my raspy voice, but ready to get into it.
Everyone loves the raspy voice. It's very much got a bit of a Bryan Adams-esque, feel going on. Maybe you should get into making some music while you've still got that raspy voice. Guys, I want to talk about so many things. Can we start with teasing the podcast? Because we have a great episode this week. I want to bring up actually the website, but we had actually can't find the website. So Jimmy, maybe if you have it quickly, we had Nate Klaus. I want to make sure I get his name right. Nate Klaus from New Level Recruiting on the podcast. And what was interesting is Nate does hiring and like headhunting, hiring, recruiting, staffing for the gaming and esports industry very specifically. So they work with a lot of the big gaming companies and helping them to hire, make executive hires, to find specific people, game developers, etc. Fascinating insight into the job environment right now in the gaming world. Confirmed many of the things we believe, like anecdotally, but some tremendous insight that I think you guys are going to want to hear about what the reality on the ground is of recruiting and hiring in the gaming industry. So
sounds like a good guy to know if you're looking to get a job.
Is a good guy to know. What's even more interesting, he came from doing recruiting at RIOT. So he was one of the top guys doing recruiting at RIOT and then at PUBG. So, pretty deep experience in the gaming space and a fascinating look on the inside. So fear not, the market for talent in the gaming industry is still red hot. That's the TLDR, but you should tune into the podcast to hear more, learn more, and definitely go check them out. I'll put it in chat because I think it's interesting for it. We often get people, wanting to learn more. So I'll put that in the chat. People looking to break into the industry, etc. All right, guys. So let's get to some stories this week because that's what we do, right? News. And I want to start with Nintendo. Nintendo in the news. Actually, a couple of news stories, which I think we can cover. And it was the headline that caught my attention here. Hang on, let me get this up. Sorry. The headline that caught my attention here, which you should see in a second. Nintendo says the transition to its next console is a, quote, major concern for us. And so the sub-headline says the company wants to alleviate the risk of resetting its user base. So Nintendo president Shuntaro Furukawa has said the company's eventual transition away from Nintendo Switch to its next hardware platform is a major concern for the company. They're worried about resetting their 100 million plus user base. And the way they're offsetting that or trying to alleviate that is by building, quote, long-term relationships with its users. Now, I'm not sure what that means exactly. They mentioned Nintendo accounts. I don't know if that's enough, but what do you guys make of Nintendo's concern? I mean, there's some numbers in this article in terms of how many Switches and Wiis and stuff they've sold, but 100 million annual players, playing users. And going forward, they said it's important to consider how we can maintain and expand on that number. And it'll be essential when we consider our plan for the next hardware platform. So 2 questions for you guys. What do you think of Nintendo being worried about this in the first place? And second question, are they hinting that maybe new hardware is coming? Or are they hinting that new hardware is not coming? What is the reading between the lines here? Jeff, you have some thoughts?
I think they're definitely right to be worried. Just if you look at Nintendo's history, I mean, they seem to every other console they launched have like a dud. They had N64 that was, or they had the NES that was great. Then they had the GameCube that was a dud, or from messing up the order. But then they had the Wii that was this massive hit. Then they had the Wii U that was terrible. Then they had the Switch that was great. So yeah, I mean, when you have a massive install base and you're selling really profitable software into it, like that's nirvana. And then when you have to rebuild the install base, it becomes really hard because you have to develop software oftentimes for both consoles as you're managing that transition. And then you have a lot of people that don't switch. And then if the console is not as good, you pretty much just lose everyone. So it's almost like you're building a whole new business every time there's a console cycle. So I don't think having Nintendo accounts gonna change that, but that's why you see a lot more of elongating of the cycles and having like the Switch Pro versus like a whole new console. So
but why does Nintendo specifically have this issue? Like, because that's sort of what you're implying and what this article is implying. Like Microsoft didn't come out and say, hey, we're really worried if we do a new Xbox that, how are we going to keep our players? Why is Nintendo's hardware cycle different in that sense? Jimmy, Lindsay, Jeff, if you have
I can't speak to the hardware cycle. To me, this just seems ass backwards. Like Jeff makes a good point about some of these being duds, but if I'm a gaming company and I have the opportunity to announce a new generation console, these are always traditionally big announcements for their competitors like Sony and Xbox. Look how ahead of everyone we are. Look how great the games look. Look how much faster and cleaner and smoother it's going to be. It's always an exciting thing to announce a new console. And for Nintendo of all people to say in 2022, oh, we really need to just lock down this user relationship and make sure they're coming back. Like, this is one of the oldest gaming companies out today, and they're thinking about their relationship with users. I don't get. This is not uncommon for us to hear coming out of Nintendo's camp because they think about things, I guess, in just a different way. But this isn't what I would expect anything to come out of Sony, anything like this to come out of Microsoft. I mean, again, Jeff makes a great point that they've had a couple of duds, a couple of misses, but you need to embrace the change. You need to step into it And you're going to lose those users if you don't come out with the new hardware, is the way I see it, if you don't come out with the next best thing. So it's really that should be the opportunity. It shouldn't be this risk of losing what they've built. In technology, the risk is not innovating enough. So again, it just seems so backwards to me.
Lindsay, did you know you were in a relationship with your Nintendo account?
Of course I did. No, I guess the thing that surprises me the most about this is that when the Switch OLED and when the Switch Pro came out, what a disappointment it was to diehard Nintendo folks, and how the response that I had seen was essentially people begging for more. It's like, "Give us something new, give us something different. We will buy it, we will come. We're not that excited about the Switch Pro because there's not that many changes. Like, give us changes." And so I don't know exactly what user groups Nintendo is studying. Like Jimmy said, I think that they're trying to be extremely risk averse, but they're actually putting themselves in a hole by not innovating. And I really think that their user base would love something new to buy. So again, I'm not in on their user generated surveys or anything like that. So I don't actually have that information. Maybe they're looking at something completely different than we are. But yeah, just the response from the Switch Pro definitely indicated to me, time for a new console. People are ready. People want it. And then this news, it's like, what?
Why do you guys think no one's doing the iPhone strategy for consoles? Right? Because Apple manages to put out a brand new iPhone every single year. And while, the changes are somewhat incremental, it's still a refreshed piece of hardware every single year. And all the games that ran on my iPhone last year will still run on my iPhone this year, right? Why is there no gaming business that looks at console hardware in that way?
Are you not just describing a PC? Is this you trying to get us to say that PC is the best?
No, but I mean, Nintendo could do that, right? They could do that. They could refresh the Switch or do something with the Switch, have a version of it every single year that is still backwards compatible with the previous version, and have excitement around a new launch every year. Is it just laziness? Like, what is the business reason in your mind?
Frankly, that's a question as someone who's not as in the hardcore scene that I've wondered since before I got into it, and I thought it was just a dumb question. I thought there was some thing that console developers out there knew about why you couldn't put out yearly iterations,
Well,
and tweak things, improve things, or I mean, there is obvious, like extremely obvious time resource constraints, all of that, labor constraints, all of that. Like that's clear. But it seems like there would be ways to tweak or add on things, or even just, I mean, Switch had all those problems with the Joy-Cons, like just changing that one element and re-releasing. I don't know. I have always felt like there was room to do that, but that's again, as someone who doesn't understand the console creation cycle as well as other folks.
I mean, Microsoft and Sony sell the consoles at a loss, right? So, but like, okay, so charge $100 more, which everyone's paying right now anyways, because they're buying them from scalpers, and like, and don't take a loss on the console, but have this hyped cycle every single year, the same way people get hyped for a new iPhone every year. Seems weird to me. Chris says, most likely, how many 3DS versions did they release? That's true. But then why has Nintendo fallen off? Right? Like, they did used to put out more hardware than they do now. And this article seems to imply that they're just more scared than they've ever been, right? There's more fear than ever at Nintendo because they happened on something good.
I think I think your point was accurate, where it's like the hardware should be either a loss leader or break even. So like, if they're getting the install base without doing this, it makes sense to prolong having to do this as long as possible, I think. Because think about all the incremental costs of changing consoles every year. I think there'd be a lot of trouble with like the production lines and stuff. And
but you don't think part of the reason people continue to be excited about their iPhone is because a new one comes out every year?
This isn't a new problem, right? It's not a new problem for Nintendo or for any of these guys. Like, this is, I get the arguments, Jeff, but it's not like this is catching them by surprise. Like, they just created their first hit console, and now they're like, oh crap, we need to think about the next one. They've been doing this for 40 years. It blows my mind that this is an issue for them and that this is a concern.
Guys, let's switch gears a bit. We're going to get to another Nintendo story in our lightning round. So let's leave that for the end and switch over here to a Sony story, which I thought was interesting. I felt was very interesting. And the headline here is PlayStation's putting $300 million more into first party games and aiming for, quote, multiple platforms. So this is from IGN. It says Sony investing $300 million into first party PlayStation studios as a two-pronged strategy to grow its gaming business alongside releasing games on multiple platforms. Their investment is for developing software at existing studios such as God of War's Santa Monica studio or Horizon Forbidden West's Guerrilla Games. And this is separate dollars to their acquisition plan. So $300 million, $308 million more to increase software development, or to match to pay for software development expenses for their first party software. I mean, obviously, guys, I'm curious where you stand on this in terms of, do we think this is essentially a statement saying there's going to be more exclusives? Is it what is the message here from Sony? Because I almost want to ask you guys what you think of a two-pronged strategy to begin with, right? Should they be focusing only on first party? Should they be investing in games that are on multiple platforms? Where do you think they should be putting dollars, and what do you think of what this investment means specifically for Sony's future plans? Jimmy?
Well, I'm interested why you would think that this is some type of strategy to strengthen the exclusive titles that they have under their belt. When it says that they're aiming for multiple platforms, to me, it sounds more like they're hedging against that, where, the Microsoft acquisition, for example, I think has them shook. And now they're like, hey, we need to get involved in more games that are cross-platform, which isn't traditionally Sony's MO, right? They were one of the last at the table to allow that cross-platform play, was my understanding. So now they're trying to be more involved in games that are cross-platform to kind of prevent Microsoft or any of their competitors from taking games away from them, was how I interpreted it. Was kind of the opposite of how you phrased the question.
But you don't. So you think this is not disingenuous in any way? Because what they're saying can feel somewhat contradictory, right? We're going to put $300 million into our first party studios, but those studios are going to deploy the games that they make on multiple platforms like Xbox, right? They didn't say like Xbox, but I'm adding that at the end.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they're going to make money from it regardless, right? And $300 million for something like this is not all that much, is it? I mean, is anyone blown away by that amount? Am I wrong to think that it should be a lot more?
I think you're pretty much spot on, actually, with the fact. I think it's as simple as they're putting more games on PC, and they probably need to invest the resources to have the capacity, the ability and capacity to do that. And I think, to your point, it's a smart strategy, and it probably is in response to maybe saying, oh, okay, wow, maybe Activision is quote unquote winning the console war, and this, we need to pivot and kind of maybe we want to start putting software more places, because if we're going to lose the next console war, we might as well have really good IP, really good software. So that way, if someone has Xbox and they want to play God of War, they're going to be able to do it on PC. It's actually a really smart strategy when you think about it that way.
Can I put my tinfoil hat on here? Between the last story and this story, is no one thinking maybe Nintendo and Sony in the next 10 years get out of the hardware business altogether, and Xbox and Microsoft is the only one left standing building hardware, dedicated gaming hardware as a console, other than there will still be mobile, there will still be PC, but that dedicated console space, it feels a little bit like this is tipping their hand long term that maybe Sony and Nintendo want out of the hardware business.
So Nintendo should definitely be out of the hardware business. I think their software would be, if they could get it onto more consoles, I think their margins would be better, and it just we wouldn't have that console cycle pressure. So I think that's not that controversial of a take. If anything, I kind of think that Sony should be the one in the hardware business and Microsoft not, right? Because Microsoft, their whole business is it's Microsoft. They're literally a software. They are the software company on the planet. So they almost it's odd that they're in the hardware game, whereas Sony, their heritage is consumer electronics. So Like they seem to me to have the hardware in their DNA a lot more than Microsoft does, and Microsoft is all about subscription and like xCloud and all that. So I don't know, maybe Sony makes the hardware and then they run it on Microsoft servers and everyone's just all friends. And I don't know.
Well, here's the hot take, and I want chat to chime in on this. I'll give you the hot take. In 10 years, none of them are making hardware. Not Microsoft, not Sony, not Nintendo. None of those three are making dedicated hardware.
That is a hot
What
take.
are we playing on?
You're playing on your phone or on your PC, but obviously Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo all still making games, just not for their own dedicated hardware platforms. Because we talked about Microsoft last week, right, on the live stream. You look at where hardware fits into their revenue stack, like it's only almost inconsequential, right? Doesn't move the needle. It's not profitable. If I'm them, I don't want to be in that business. Nintendo sounds like they don't want to be in that business. Sony sounds sort of like they don't want to be in that business. In 10 years, I'm telling you, none of them are in that business. No one's building dedicated hardware 10 years from now. Let's see what Adam says. Happy Wednesday, friends. Adam, welcome. Great to see you here. Chris says, very NA attitude there, boys and girls. Nintendo has Japan on lock. Why let that go to their competitors? Sure. General audiences don't play on PC. But, Chris, they're going to play on mobile. Japanese gamers will play Nintendo games on mobile. 10 years from now? I don't disagree with you, but why? Where did mobile? Mobile's not going anywhere, unfortunately. Right? You all have phones.
We're all going to be in the metaverse by that point. So,
Adam says, make it 11 years and I'll buy it. All right, Adam, fine. 11 years. Okay. In 11 years, no one's making hardware. Do none of you agree? No one agrees.
It's sad. It's bold, but sad. Sorry, Lindsay. It looked like you were about to say
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Not much more, honestly, not much more other than that just sounds really dark. Like, why would they give that up? I don't know. I mean, maybe if they eventually, I would see them more so getting into hardware space, like building TVs that have this kind of functionality. And that it depends a lot on cloud-based gaming, I guess. It depends on how fast the phone hardware takes us. I just don't see PC gamer, everyone that owns a console going to PC. The mobile argument is strong if the mobile tech catches up to where we think that goes.
Jimmy, you'll be able to play it on your TV.
Right.
The point is it'll be streamed, it'll be cloud, it'll be something. You won't need the box sitting on your coffee table, your whatever you put the thing you put under your TV is called.
But
you know?
So I guess maybe I'll push back on depending on what you mean. Like there still is going to have to be a console in the cloud, right? So even with xCloud right now, it's like somewhere sitting in Microsoft servers, there's like an Xbox basically.
Yeah, but Microsoft's not building hardware. That's a generic data center, right? But
Microsoft is building that. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's like
they're not building dedicated hardware. These are servers running NVIDIA GPUs and Intel processors, right? Or AMD processors. This is not, custom hardware that has to be, UL tested and has to be this because it has to go in your living room. And this is a totally different thing than building a piece of hardware that goes in little Timmy's bedroom.
Sure.
Lindsay, you were going to say something.
No, I think it's an interesting thought, but I don't know if I can fully jump on board with nobody's going to be making it, but I do think that consoles are going to look a lot different. And I think that there's going to be a lot more with goggles and wearables and other things that aren't the traditional consoles that we think of. I don't know if these companies will pivot to making those. I could see maybe some pivoting and some not, depending on the resource and the interests. But I definitely do think that the traditional console as a whole is on its way out.
100% agree. I think that's super insightful. Antonio says, not happening. Consoles are more affordable. Antonio, I'm not saying there won't be an affordable option, right? You'll pay $15 a month for Game Pass and you'll still be able to play your game, a Microsoft game, on your TV. There just won't be a piece of hardware sitting under the TV.
Oculus is at $300. Yeah.
Yeah. Antonio says, for your average gamer, no one wants to play on your phone for hours. Again, I think I'm not saying it's only going to be there will still be the kind of gaming everyone does on consoles today, just without those companies having to make hardware. Chris says, Soper Paul, everyone invest in NVIDIA because they're the only company able to eliminate all the consoles. Chris, I think everyone should be invested in NVIDIA for reasons beyond just consoles. I mean, this is a company that basically has a monopoly on a segment of the market that is powering everything from gaming to metaverses to AI to, definitely should. NVIDIA is one stock I like. Chris says Canada also has the best internet in the world, apparently. No, definitely not. Definitely not. Very expensive, very slow compared to offerings even in the US. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's talk about something else here. Let's talk about Valorant for a second. Valorant has a brand new, or they've revealed a brand new format, and I'm curious to get everyone's thoughts on the format and if it changes your mind sort of about the future of Valorant esports. But the headline here is Valorant esports in 2023. This is directly from Riot. And it says, Valorant's today's fastest growing esport. I'm not sure if that's true, but I'll take it as truth. And so in 2023, they're introducing changes to the competitive ecosystem to make it better for the players and the fans. And basically, they've broken it down into this pyramid with the tip of the pyramid being what they call global events that raise the bar. So this is spectacle, top tier competition, lifelong memories. Those are the keywords they're using there. The next piece of the pyramid is brand new premier level international leagues. So 3 new leagues, best teams around the world compete in studio to be crowned champion of their league and to qualify for the global events. And I assume those will be like one North America or Americas, one Europe, one, Asia, something like that. The same way they have for League of Legends. The next step of the pyramid is expanded domestic and game changers leagues. So this is their expansion of the challengers system. So to sort of groom up and coming players and find up and coming players potentially for those international leagues. And then the bottom of the pyramid, the widest piece here, is what they call deep connection to the in-game competitive experience. More opportunities, it says, for any player to qualify for pro play via a new in-game competitive mode. Obviously, there's a lot of Riot, marketing messaging here, players and fans first, new path to pro, new fan experience, right? They're touting a lot of innovation here or changes to the Valorant ecosystem. I'm curious, what you guys think of them coming out and sort of laying this out for people, first of all. Second of all, it feels to me very much like League. And, is this just Riot applying best practices or what they already have learned from League? And what you make of this in general, I guess. Like, what is your take on this pivot for Valorant esports, which up until now has felt a little bit all over the place?
I
Jeff,
can go.
Go ahead.
To me, I don't know. It's a bit chaotic to me, and I guess if they're following the League model, that's probably smart because League has obviously been incredibly successful. So maybe it's as simple as that. It's like here's what's worked for us in League. Let's just recreate it with Valorant. Like that would be a very acceptable, reasonable good strategy. But to me, it seems a little chaotic. Like why? And one other thing I don't like is where is the mention of like youth leagues or high school esports? And maybe it's just they're thinking about that completely separately, like how they're building a sort of like a amateur community. But to me, it's too many pro leagues. It's like you need to win your regional, and then you need to play the Galaxy, then you need to come here and then there, and then if you do that, you like come up to a troll, and the troll will tell you like pick a number between 1 and 10, and then you get to this, and then maybe you get invited to World. Like I don't know, it seems like a lot. Like why can't they just have one league with 20 teams and like have a division for each region, and then like the winners play in a tournament, like very similar to what the NFL does. Like I don't know. To me, it's just very complicated.
You're ignoring the fact that the NFL does have huge feeder systems in high school and college, right?
So that was sort of my point.
That you're right, that doesn't exist for esports though, for the most part, right? Not at the level that you would need to be able to feed an entire pro scene, right? And also high school and college is sort of already too old to be starting for gaming, which is not the case for the NFL. I mean, Lindsay, I don't know if you have thoughts on this.
No, I was going, one of the biggest criticisms that we have had on this show previously, and something that I stand by, not only for esports, but with a lot of other things, is that it's important to create paths forward, to think big, to think about what you want the future to look like. And particularly in such a young industry, I mean, thinking back, like we're really like 5 years deep with this, and the NFL has 80, it's going to look a lot different. I really like that there's a comprehensive strategy and that they're trying. Do I think every piece of it's going to work? And do I think Jeff's right about it being a little confusing? Yeah, probably. But also, I would imagine if you sat down 80 years ago and told everyone what the NFL was going to look like 80 years from now, they would think you were insane. So you have to try to start somewhere. And I imagine that they will iterate on this over time. They've had a successful model with League. Building these feeder systems is going to be a big priority for a lot of studios coming up. And I think that they've sat down and come up with what to them feels like a comprehensive and solid strategy. I fully do expect this to change. I fully expect that elements of this are not going to work out. But it's something, and it's a long-term thought, and it's fully fleshed out for a lot of different levels and people to be able to be involved.
Ricky says, I wonder what they would do to support smaller org/amateur esports teams. I mean, there's not much in here about that other than like they're going to allow third-party tournaments and things like that. So monetary support, I don't know. It's not clear. I mean, Ricky, that's sort of a good segue into my next question and call it my hot take on this, which is, other than that very tip of the pyramid, I'm guessing the rest loses money, is not profitable. And therefore, you have to believe Riot is propping up Valorant esports with dollars, right? And therefore, they see it as critical to the success of the game overall, as a marketing tool, right? Because if they're spending dollars on this, it becomes a marketing tool. Does anyone think anything other than the tip of the pyramid will be profitable here?
Are you talking profit like from the esport competition sponsorships? Like you're not counting in-game skins and things that's a separate pot.
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy, how do you feel? Do you think?
I mean, first of all, I think right now we're talking about consolidating competitive gameplay in Valorant across a global audience and providing all these people with an opportunity to test their skills and eventually become world champion is kind of the way I read the pyramid, which is a cool thing that I think a lot of people in any game, any sport, any industry love to do, right? Because so often when you look at the NBA or the NFL or traditional American sports, they're limited to those leagues and those regions. And Valorant is saying, hey, esports is a global thing. It's not a regional thing. And gaming is a global pastime. It's not an American pastime or any other country for that matter. So they are offering that opportunity where no matter what level you're at, there is a spot for you to compete, test your skills. And if you are that good, progress and advance to culminating in a world championship. I'm not sure if you can make it that much simpler. I understand that the arguments for it appearing a little confusing. Perhaps that's in the interpretation or in how it's conveyed, and not necessarily in how it will look and feel when you're going through this. But again, fundamentally, I think it's a very cool thing. And I think to your initial question too, Paul, if there wasn't learnings, I would be surprised if there weren't learnings from League and from their other business models, because that's just natural for them to take what's successful and iterate on it. Whether or not the lower tiers are profitable is a tough one to answer. I think we're seeing, being in esports now for, me personally for about 5 years, you guys, a bit longer. We're definitely seeing a lot of teams, a lot of businesses struggle with monetization, right? There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of investment, there's a lot of potential and growth, but profitable dollars is always a question. That's not to say we haven't seen junior leagues or, like the what's it called? That soccer league that everyone played in growing up. But that's not to say that we don't see profitable business models that aren't pro, that are supporting local communities, like Lindsay mentioned, and providing opportunities for casual gaming that are profitable. I think maybe the reason why you think those aren't going to be profitable here, Paul, is because when it's Riot, you're held to such a higher standard, right, of production, that everything has to be really top notch. So you're not cutting corners, you're not getting, the cheap jerseys, the cheaper equipment. Everything is really that A grade that we would come to expect. But we already knew. I thought we covered a story not too long ago where we knew that competitive league wasn't profitable for Riot, but that it was a redirect and a funnel for attention into the business as a whole and the profit that they're seeing from the video game. So, what that says to the businesses that want to compete in this model is a different story, right? And whether or not they can become profitable competing in Riot Esports. But for Riot itself, it doesn't really matter if one thing's profitable or not. I think as long as the sum or the total outcome is a win for them, which clearly they think that this will be.
Yeah, I'll leave it on this. I'm worried about Valorant Esports. I think it has underperformed, relative to its potential and relative to sort of the power of Riot. And I'm just, again, anecdotally not feeling a ton of excitement around Valorant Esports. What was missing from this document for me, as great and thorough as it was, and I think it will help if they execute on everything in this document, is like, it mentions fan experience, but it's like, I think this is where this is won or lost, right? How they execute on the fan experience. And Riot traditionally has done a very good job with that. I just thought, and maybe it's part of their secret sauce, right? So they don't put it in the public facing document. The structure of the league, this is like, it's interesting, but Riot is good at that. They've shown they're successful with league, with the structure. It's all going to come down to what do they bring to the table with the fan experience. And there I'm encouraged, right? If they're giving this much thought into structure and pivoting the structure and, thinking about how to take Valorant to the next level, I have to believe that they're giving quite a bit of thought to where do we improve the fan experience? How do we make this accessible to the masses, not just the people who play Valorant? And if they can achieve that, right, I suspect Valorant Esports could 10 years from now be bigger than League of Legends, right? Like, shooters arguably have a pretty big fan base, can be more exciting, more dramatic, lots of good things if they can get that fan experience right. And it'll be interesting to see how they execute on that. So one to follow, and definitely an interesting thing to put out for Valorant fans. Guys, I want to move on here. And I maybe should have put this right next to the hardware story. I didn't think we were going to spend so much time on hardware, but this one's an interesting article, and it's Turtle Beach in the news. And the headline here is gaming company Turtle Beach is exploring a sales process. So Turtle Beach, public company, they've been making like headsets mostly. I think they're known for years now. Some good ones, I think Dr. Disrespect wears a Turtle Beach headset sponsored by Turtle Beach. And supposedly they are engaged with potential buyers. They've hired Bank of America last year to spearhead this process. They've signed 10 NDAs. They've held 9 management meetings. There's no guarantee, it says, that discussions will lead to a transaction, but it looks like they're for sale. Now, I did a quick look on Turtle Beach, just FYI. Market cap of Turtle Beach, because they're public, is $240 million. They did over $300 million of revenue in the last 12 months, but only $5.5 million of EBITDA. So, pretty relatively low margin business. Hardware is not an easy business, which is one of my takeaways here. But what do we think of Turtle Beach, which is arguably one of the bigger gaming brands, up for sale? and up for sale in a pretty soft market when gaming is, for the most part, booming. Thoughts on timing on this, and thoughts on why you guys think this might be happening here? Jeff, maybe start with you.
I mean, I remember Turtle Beach back in like 2018, right when the Fortnite craze kind of began, had a massive run. I think it maybe even came close to being like $1 billion company at that point, because everyone was buying gaming headsets. A lot of people came into the gaming ecosystem, young kids kind of entering for Fortnite, people, first time gamers. They pulled a lot of demand forward. So I mean, like you said, hardware is a tough business. Even though it's gaming, it really is consumer hardware. It's like not exactly tied to the growth of gaming, because people buy a headset once, maybe they don't have to buy another one for 3-4 years. Like there's a hardware replacement cycle. I'm sure during the pandemic, they also probably pulled forward a lot of demand. So, you're seeing this even with like a business like Peloton, like consumer hardware tech company, pulled forward a ton of demand during the pandemic, and now is like struggling to right size their business model. So this feels like a kind of company that will either sell to like a Corsair or someone like a strategic, or I could definitely see like a private equity coming in, cutting costs, like maybe weathering the storm outside the public market during like this maybe like lull in a replacement cycle, and then maybe taking it public again once sales start inflecting higher. But yeah, I don't know if there's like too much more to dig into it.
I mean, Lindsay, let me ask you this, because you self-proclaim more of a casual gamer, right? What makes you decide to buy one piece of hardware or another? Like, I feel a lot of these hardware companies have struggled to reach the masses, right? In some ways, like a lot of hardcore gamers will have their preference in terms of brand. And I bring this back to like, therefore, who's the buyer for Turtle Beach, right? Because, why should Logitech or Corsair own a third brand of a headset that competes with two other headsets they already have? And for the most part, the average consumer doesn't know the difference, right? Like, what is the thing that would get you or the average kind of gamer, casual gamer, excited about a brand like Turtle Beach versus something else? Like, what is that differentiating factor in your mind?
To be honest, I think it's purely optics and marketing. And I think it's going to be something like a super cool collaboration between either an influencer or probably a non-gaming brand. The closest kind of analog I can think of to real world products is Beats by Dre, which I know has nothing to do with gaming really, but those were able to carve out a niche. Where he was making studio headphones, and obviously not that many people are in studios that need those specific headphones, but was able to instead capture a cultural moment in the people that he chose to share those with and build a successful brand. I think for gaming hardware to go more mainstream, it has to just kind of like do more mainstream things. Like that's what would get my attention. And I don't know that that is the way that a lot of gaming hardware wants to go, because I also think it does like serving a niche audience. So the brand has to be sure of its identity and sure that it wants to appeal to more mainstream before making that jump. I think gamers pretty immediately are going to think that the quality went down whether nothing changed or not. So they have to be positive that they feel that they can build a successful brand in the mainstream. And to do that, you just got to do something fun and fancy that's attention getting.
It's funny, no one cares, right, how it sounds necessarily, but if someone cool is wearing it. Jimmy, you were going to add something there. Sorry.
No, I think Jeff and Lindsay make two great points. One, that Turtle Beach was one of those brands that first time gamers or that people that were buying their first headset came across and tried and used. I don't know what that says about their products, because I don't remember if they have any higher end products, but that goes into Lindsay's point about innovation, right? And staying true to your brand and doing something that's cool. And when you brought up this article, I had this moment. I was like, wow, I can't remember the last time I even thought about Turtle Beach. I had them a long time ago, and then I got a better headset and I never looked back. And if they had a higher end product, maybe I would have looked at that too if they had other products that weren't headsets. I mean, but think about this. This is a brand that, like Jeff said, with Fortnite, and I know this from when I was a big time Call of Duty gamer way back in the day, this was one of the headsets everyone had. Everyone got it first because I don't know why. It was the headset to get. And how do you how do you become that gateway to this huge world of headsets and gaming peripherals, and then end up in this position where you're kind of selling when everyone else is doing better than ever? How do you not innovate? How do you not create other products? How do you not create higher end products and capture that same audience that you were able to attract initially? So it's kind of mind blowing, and it was really kind of just funny to me to be like, wow, I haven't even thought of this company in forever, because it's not even in the top 5 on my list of when I think of top gaming hardware manufacturers or peripheral manufacturers. So I think the two of you guys together, with a lack of innovation yet, and also with that entry level product, but with the failure to recapture those initial first time consumers, was really insightful.
They probably have the best ticker symbol of at least one of the best ones of any gaming company. It's HEAR. It's here, which is pretty clever. It is clever. So we'll see. It's one to follow. We'll see what happens to Turtle Beach. Hopefully they find a good home. Guys, one more story before we get to our lightning round here. And this is Strauss Zelnick in the news, interestingly enough, and a story about Take-Two Interactive here. And it's talking about Strauss's bonus. So the headline here, a little bit clickbaity: Take-Two CEO's big microtransaction bonus. And what they're talking about is, first of all, Strauss is going to remain in charge of Take-Two into 2029, it says, according to a new contract extension. And this contract extension is going to tie more of his pay to in-game microtransactions, which may include NFTs. I thought this was interesting for 2 reasons. One, I want to have this discussion around tying CEO of gaming companies pays to a specific mechanism like a microtransaction, but also that the company's definition of microtransactions and in-game items and all that they shared in their SEC filing includes the sale of NFTs. So this is baked into his comp. And what's interesting is Strauss has been very vocal about, that all of this Web3 stuff, in his mind, this is not what he said. I'm totally paraphrasing, but like sort of nonsense, or at least not interesting to him. So I thought interesting on 2 fronts here. So first of all, what do you guys make of tying CEO of gaming companies comp specifically to microtransaction revenue? And then second of all, maybe a bit of a pivot on Strauss's part around the whole NFT discussion. Lindsay, I don't know if you have thoughts to kick off here, or?
Yeah, I love that you picked the person who's like least best versed in the business world to go first on this. Thank you for that. Appreciate you. I don't really know. Like, I read this too, and I thought, like, God, I don't know what to think about this. Like, microtransactions have been a thing that's been, it's been a huge kind of economic portion of the gaming industry for so long. My previous job, I actually like spent a whole paper just studying and looking at microtransactions and what they were and what they meant and all this stuff. And I think it's weird because I feel like they're quite hard to capture in entirety. And I don't know, like this, I don't know. I want to hear what everyone else thinks.
Okay, let me ask a more specific question.
So
could this create incentives that may drive Take-Two in a drastically different direction than it has traditionally gone, right? Because traditionally Take-Two was $60 game, art, we spend years making it. It's a great story. It's great visuals, right? It's about the experience. If his comp is now tied to microtransactions in a major way, does some of the DNA of the company, some of the thinking change?
Oh, it screams, we believe in mobile gaming, for sure. Like that was my first thought. Definitely. Like, we are so glad we bought Zynga, and now we are betting on mobile gaming big. But yeah, Jeff, you were going to say something, and I want to hear you.
No, I think that's a great point, actually, to bring up mobile gaming, especially because obviously they just spent $10 billion on Zynga, so they definitely do believe in mobile gaming and microtransactions to go with it. The interesting thing for me is, like, it's a weird, from the board's perspective, like, I'm a big believer, like, when you create incentives, people will always like find a way, like, your behavior, incentive shape behavior, like that's just a tried and true kind of truism. And usually boards want to structure CEO comp around like stock performance. right? Like the best plans for shareholder value is usually like total stock return. So like normally you'll see a CEO's pay very pegged to like how the stock does, either an absolute basis or how it does relative to some sort of benchmark. So it's odd to tie it to something that like you could argue like yes, all else equal, having more microtransactions will be more profitable. You're getting more revenue, so like that should be good for the stock. But having said that, now he might be pushing a ton of microtransactions games that players might not actually want. So you could see like overall sales go down, but microtransactions go up and he gets paid. And maybe it's not the best thing for shareholders or for players for that matter. So it's just a bit of a weird incentive to put in there. But we see stuff like this a lot in CEO pay. Like I remember Bobby Kotick famously for a long time had like this massive incentive where like if he did a deal of a certain size, he would get like $300 million. And so for the longest time, investors were always like, well, Bobby's going to buy something. Cause like literally there was like a date in the contract. It was like, if he didn't make certain size acquisition by like some point in 2024, like he would lose $300 million, or, if he did, he would make $300 million. So you can bet that it was pretty likely that he would try to do that. So I don't know, boards put things in there for reasons. Obviously they're trying to impact behavior. Maybe, and as I'm just thinking this, maybe Strauss for the longest time has been against microtransactions a little bit, and he's been the one holding them back a bit. And the board's like, we want the stock to go up, so we're going to push you in that direction and give you even more incentive. I don't know. That would be a little surprising, but it's possible.
Jimmy, any thoughts on this?
When Satya Nadella's contract came out with the Game Pass miss, right, and we saw how closely that contract was tied to Game Pass, we jumped on, wow, that must be Microsoft Gaming's focus, is really getting users to adopt this, right? It was directly correlated with how many users they got to sign up for that. So when you see Strauss here restructuring a contract for microtransactions and potentially NFTs, you kind of like to Lindsay's point, you look at it and you say, okay, this is going to be a core focus of their business. That's obviously a no-brainer. I think the interesting question that you raised here was, one, where NFT is going to come into play here, because it was kind of a sidestep. But more importantly, is this going to alter the DNA of the company as a whole? Because even as recent as last year, they were still like, no, $60 games because it's a story and it's worth it. So I didn't think of the mobile argument, Lindsay, until you brought that up. I was thinking of, what are they going to do with microtransactions with their console-based games in particular, and are they going to lean into that a little bit more? And if so, how great is that? Because that's where the gaming industry needs to be, right? You need to eliminate these paywalls. You need to give access to the kids all across the world and throughout Middle America, that can't afford the $60, but that can afford $2 here, $3 there, which, as we've seen, adds up to way more than $60 over time. Either way, it's kind of cool to see a CEO banking on, I think, a new way of things, a way of things that was defined and first started by gaming, right, with microtransactions and getting behind it. I think it's probably not going to be the last story of its kind where executives are going to tie, I think, their compensation to those types of objectives.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just I'll leave it on. I think it's interesting. Clearly, I think it's tied to their mobile acquisition and wanting him to spend time focused on that, where I think Strauss historically has been a bit more resistant. But where I disagreed with Jeff was, you align with short-term goals like stock performance, you get Bobby Kotick. And while the damages may not be clear today, I still promise you over the next 5-10 years, the damages are going to be very, very clear. That Microsoft will realize they bought something pretty broken at some point, and there's going to be a scramble to fix it. So, like, I like this better, frankly, than tying more of his performance to how Take-Two stock's doing, because I'd rather Strauss be focused on building a great business and letting the stock price take care of itself. Now, is microtransaction the way to building a great business? I don't agree, and I liked the fact that Take-Two was different. I liked the fact that they had a different view and take on the world. But I mean, this is maybe the reality of our time, right? Like the games as art, games as, you know, finished boxed products are going away, whether we like it or not. And Take-Two maybe is the last one to fall, or the last big one to fall. So, look, if you end up with GTA 6, where every action you take is some kind of microtransaction, you know who to blame. But we'll have to see. All right, guys, before I get to everyone's favorite new segment, our lightning round, I just want to say a quick word. This podcast, this live stream, is very generously sponsored by YouGov. YouGov produces the absolute best data on gamers, games, esports fans all around the world. But most importantly, it's what they call living data. It's data that is constantly evolving, constantly changing, and they're able to see these changes, this evolution in real time. And as a consequence, if you're looking to reach that gaming audience, if you're a brand, if you're a rights holder, if you're a team, if you're anyone looking in and around the gaming space, you can use this living data to take real action and make real decisions. So highly recommend reaching out to YouGov if you're in and around the gaming space at all. You're looking to make a move, you're looking to make an investment, whatever it is, make sure you're talking to YouGov before you do any of that, because they are going to make you smarter. Go check out, I'll leave this link in the chat. It'll reach most of you, maybe not some, but go to yougov.com. I want everyone to stop what they're doing. Go to your browser, put in yougov.com/BOE for Business of Esports. So /BOE. And there's some free data there. There's also some videos of past appearances of like people from YouGov who have, like Ben Pero, who have come on the live stream and highlighted data. I think there's a whole video about the intersection of gaming and crypto on there. So definitely go check it out. And if you need to reach someone at YouGov, definitely feel free to reach out directly or go through any one of us. So you can reach out to me, to Jimmy, to Jeff, to Lindsay, any of us on LinkedIn or wherever, and we can connect you with someone at YouGov. Definitely go show them some love. They are tremendous sponsors of the live stream. So yougov.com/BOE. Just go check it out. See what's there. A lot of interesting things there. All right, guys, that takes us to everyone's new favorite segment. It's our lightning round. Here we go. All right, guys, if you're new here, here's how it works. I'm going to go in clockwise and then counterclockwise order, and I'm going to introduce a topic very quickly. Each person in order will have 30 seconds to respond, to comment on that topic. At the end of the 30 seconds, they will hear this sound indicating they're out of time, and it moves on to the next person. Please feel free to give your opinions as well. We want to hear everyone's opinion. Even if it's a short time and it goes very fast, I will get to everyone's comments. So that's how it's going to go. Let me start with the first story here. Get them all teed up here. And the first story is from Sony, which we had in a previous segment here. But another Sony story very quickly. Sony says it won't make Bungie games exclusive, but the FTC may not be convinced. So Sony's $3.6 billion acquisition of Bungie is reportedly being investigated by the FTC. It supposedly hit a speed bump. They want to do an in-depth investigation because the FTC is worried that they're going to make their games Sony exclusive. Jimmy, let's start with you. Your thoughts on this?
I mean, they shouldn't make the games exclusive. They need to make, and as we saw with the $300 million fund in story cover today, they need to be thinking about how do we get games across multiple consoles and in front of a wider audience. No real comment on why the FTC isn't convinced. That's pretty standard, but yeah, they shouldn't.
Lindsay?
Okay, sorry, my computer's lagging like crazy. I don't know. Sony can say whatever it wants to say. I think that a lot of game companies are working out a strategy. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't think an FTC investigation is really going to do anything, and there's bigger fish to fry for them. But this is kind of classic behavior, so I'm not surprised.
Jeff?
I suspect this has more to do with the Microsoft Activision deal than with this Sony deal, because I don't think that this deal is big enough to really get on the radar like for the FTC. But I think if you were the FTC and you're investigating in Microsoft Activision, you probably want to understand the industry a bit more. So I think this is probably the FTC's way of basically like doing their due diligence about the entire industry, figuring out, hey, well, is Sony saying they're going to go exclusive? Maybe that makes Microsoft more likely to go exclusive. Like they're just trying to like figure out the whole big picture of the industry, I think.
Interesting thought. Ricky, I'll just read his comment. Says, I see them doing PlayStation exclusive microtransactions. They have done it before. Yeah, I mean, Ricky, I'm sort of with you. Like, I'm a believer in where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know if the FTC would be looking at this unless there was some suspicion Sony's actually going exclusive with Bungie. And maybe the 300 million we talked about earlier is the decoy, right? No. We're all about making games for everyone, and that's the paper trail they want to leave for the FTC. So who knows? I suspect it won't amount to anything because they will have trouble finding anything. All right, let's move on, guys. Let's talk about Saudi esports. This article: Saudi Esports Federation announces gaming centers face-off across 5 cities. Basically, what's happening is the Saudi Esports Federation announced that they're going to kick off this gaming competition across 5 cities in the kingdom. The tournaments are going to involve 20 gaming centers in 3 cities, or 5 cities, sorry. And they're doing it in partnership with Ignite. And the idea is to develop the gaming community in the kingdom, right? And to encourage the gaming community in the kingdom. Total prize money small, $60,000, but it is interesting. Jeff, start with you.
I really like this. I mean, we were sort of wondering, like Saudi Arabia, when the kingdom sort of bought into ESL and Face It, we were wondering what their plan was, and we suspected it would have to do with kind of regional competitions, building up the ecosystem there. So I like that they're doing this online, offline, like you're tying in gaming centers. I think this is very smart.
Lindsay?
If you're going to talk about it, you should be about it. So I guess I'm glad to see that they're making moves and spending their money. It's still the Saudi esports, like it's still Saudi Arabia, so I still have my doubts, but they're certainly at least putting their money where their mouth is and doing what they said they were going to do.
Jimmy?
I think it's a fun idea to compete in different games, and it said up to 18 titles. So I think that sounds pretty cool. 60,000 though just doesn't seem like that much, and we've normally seen bigger prize pools, or rather bigger investments out of this region. Maybe they researched and said, hey, we're going to get the same turnout if it's 25K, 60K, or $1 million. So might as well do something that makes economic sense while we're figuring it out. I would just hope that the next time they do this, because I'm sure this will be a success, hope that the next time that it's a more exciting prize pool.
Yeah, my take on this is just it's a small prize pool, but I'm blown away by, like, if we took this exact same scenario and we were talking about it in the US, we would spend an hour just on this, right? Like, think about it. It's as if the US government, some arm of the US government, comes out and says, hey guys, we're going to do this esports competition in like New York, LA, Chicago, Austin, and everyone's going to play games and we're going to put prize money up. Like, this would blow your mind if this was government driven in the US. I just think it's cool at that level to have this kind of impact on an industry or desire to grow an industry. So my short take on that. All right, guys, let's talk about, we have to do a chair review, of course. Sorry, Jeff, I had to fit it in here. This is NOBLECHAIRS celebrates Star Wars Day, because we did pass Star Wars Day last week, with the Boba Fett edition gaming chair. Channel your inner bounty hunter. So this is NOBLECHAIRS with their Boba Fett chair. Nothing special other than the colorway here and the graphics. Any buyers?
Start?
What's that?
Yeah. Can I start?
Yeah,
Please.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Okay, perfect. I want to cede all my time to Jimmy. I want to hear him talk about Star Wars for the next 40 seconds.
Yeah, Jimmy, take my time too. Talk about the trilogy.
Jimmy!
Talk about everything.
You guys,
you have a minute and 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
I hope I don't disappoint you guys. Honestly, I am a huge Star Wars fan. You guys know I have a Star Wars tattoo, and it's my favorite franchise. Sadly, I'm getting to the point where I'm looking for more innovation out of these chair collabs. Like, it's a very cool colorway. It looks awesome. I definitely want one. But after I saw the Secret Lab, I think, chair, the Lamborghini chair, right, with that faux suede that kind of mimicked the actual Lambo, these color collabs don't cut it for me anymore. I mean, Boba Fett has that thing on his helmet that comes down and auto targets for the rocket on his back. You couldn't put something like that on with a cup holder. I mean, just make it a little cooler for me, because I'm gonna get it no matter what. But just something a little bit more, please.
Noble Chairs. You can reach out. We'll do some consulting for you. We'll have Jimmy spearhead making your chairs that much better. Antonio says, I'm buying Love Star Wars. This is one I'm not buying, I will say, because it's just not enough innovation. It's just not enough there to get me excited. We've come too far with gamer bathtubs and, gamer pods. Like, this is not doing it anymore. We're all desensitized now. All right, guys. Last story here. This is, I hope you didn't see that. This is Nintendo reveals the 10 best-selling Switch games since launch. And so here's what I want to do. I want to do this a little bit differently. I want everyone in chat to put what they think are the 3 top 10 best-selling Switch games since launch. And then for all of you, with your 30 seconds, you're going to give me what you think are the 3 top 10 best-selling Switch games since launch. And you're going to write them down, because I want to see who's right here.
Wait, are we doing 3 or are we doing 10?
I feel like I need multiple
3.
choice.
You just have to guess the top 3.
Oh my God. Like, what?
You can't guess the top
Breath
3.
of the Wild. I got 1.
These are like
Animal
right?
Crossing. I got 2. I don't know. I'm blanking. What other? Give me some options. Give me some choices here.
I'm not going to give you choices. Do you not know 10 Nintendo games or 3?
Of course. Well, I got 2 so far.
Okay. Where does Mario fit in?
Which one?
Maybe
Mario
Party, Mario Kart, Mario.
I'll go with Mario. No, it's not gonna be that.
Okay.
Whatever. I'll go with Mario.
You have
I was waiting for the ding.
Oh, I didn't know it was my turn. I thought this was like a collaborative effort.
No, you got to. I want to see who gets this right.
All right, those are my 3.
So you had. Sorry, to recap: Breath
Zelda,
of the Wild,
yep,
Animal Crossing, Mario Party,
and Mario. Yeah.
Okay.
Although the problem is, it depends when these things were launched, because Nintendo games keep selling, so it's not like they don't have like these big curves. So I'm probably wrong because those are too recent. But
Lindsay, and guys, I want your guesses in the chat too, please.
I definitely think Ocarina of Time, or just Zelda,
Switch
is number
game.
1.
This is Switch games, right? Keep in mind, specifically for the Switch.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild. Sorry. Zelda has to be number 1.
Okay.
Like,
number 2.
Okay. I think number 2, oh God. I think it's probably, I don't know if it is number 2, but I think Animal Crossing is 2 or 3. And then I don't know. It's hard because I'm trying to think of what came out like 3 years ago. Because I would say if we were a little further down, I'd say Pokemon, but that just came out not that long ago. So I'm not sure. If that's had enough time. I don't know. I'm gonna say Luigi's Mansion 3.
Okay, I like it. Jimmy?
Do you?
No, that's a horrible guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Luigi's not even the main guy.
I know,
I mean, you did show some good breadth of Nintendo knowledge there.
Yes.
I actually kind of liked Luigi's Mansion 3. That's the only reason why I put it up there. It's in my top 3.
But Jimmy, before you go, Antonio says if it changes your thoughts, Mario Kart, Zelda, and a Pokemon game. So I feel Lindsay was going in that direction too.
Yeah,
a Pokemon game.
Maybe Jimmy? Mario Kart because of time.
I definitely think Breath of the Wild is up there, 1 or 2. I agree actually with Antonio that Mario Kart is probably top 3. I'd put it at number 2 because of time. I think Animal Crossing is probably 4 or 5, honestly. I think number 3 is more likely Pokemon, or I was going to give it to, oh crap, I'm trying to blank now. There's that other Mario rendition. I would either maybe a tie between that, what was it, Mario Superstar or the Zelda. There's a Zelda sequel already out. Yeah, Odyssey, I think maybe. But the Zelda sequel, I think Zelda takes 2 of the top 3 spots.
Interesting.
Smash. Antonio might be right with Smash.
Yeah, Antonio says or a Smash game. All right, guys, you ready to see the top 10 here? We're gonna scroll down here. Top 10. Number 1, Mario Kart 8. Number 2, Animal Crossing. So both Jeff and Lindsay, I think, got the number 2 spot correct. And number 3, Super Smash. Antonio at the last minute came up with that one. All of you put, I think, Breath of the Wild first, and it's actually number 4. And sold like not half, but significantly less than almost half of Mario Kart.
Close to half, yeah.
Yeah, close to half. So that's the top 10. Mario Kart 8, Animal Crossing, Super Smash, Breath of the Wild, Pokemon, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario Party, another Pokemon.
We were pretty good.
Yeah,
I had
I mean,
Mario
with-
Kart up there, but
like,
not
Oh, I
number one.
forgot about Odyssey.
With
This
very
is the
little
problem.
conviction. We were good.
Right.
But we had no conviction.
Like,
we
I
pretty much
forgot,
got
like-
all of them.
Now that you're talking about Mario Kart 8, I remember when that came out and like what a huge deal it was, but it's been a while. Like I just haven't thought about it. I can't believe Luigi's Mansion isn't like number 7.
No, it got beat
Dang
out
it.
by Ring Fit
Dang
Adventure.
it.
All right, guys, that's a good way to end this week's lightning round. All right, guys. Couple reminders. Don't forget, check out the podcast when it drops this week. It'll drop Friday. Again, new level recruiting. Such a great story. So much insight on the hiring space in the gaming industry. Definitely go subscribe to the Meta Business podcast that I do with Jeff, and go subscribe to Lindsay's Meta Woman podcast, which is amazing. We've got so many
Ooh.
guests. Yeah.
Can I actually plug this week's episode
Yeah.
really quick? Because
Sure,
I had an
yeah, do
awesome
it.
guest. I had the CEO and co-founder of Ventana, which has Mark Cuban and the CEO of Oculus among its backers. And this woman created a really cool way for people to quickly and easily create 3D experiences from various models to use in advertising and production, all these different things. So it's a really cool company. It was an awesome episode. Highly recommend giving it a listen. It's just cool concept.
Lindsay, didn't correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they raise money from Epic also? Did they take money from Epic?
We didn't specifically talk about them. That doesn't mean that she
Okay.
didn't raise from them, but
Okay.
I'm not 100%
I
sure.
may be confusing things, but for some reason I thought they did.
It's cool. She does a lot of work in like luxury fashion, which is neat. She has a partnership with Facebook/Meta. It's just a really, really cool episode.
So go subscribe to Meta Woman and Meta Business, guys. You can find it everywhere you find your podcast. So hit the subscribe button, share it with people. Also, make sure follow Business of Esports everywhere. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, on LinkedIn, you name it, on every single platform under the sun. It's all Business of Esports or Biz Esports. And don't forget, every Wednesday evening, we do this weekly news show / live stream. 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, we start every single week. And we encourage you guys to bring your friends, bring your colleagues, invite people to the live show. We appreciate everyone who showed up this week. Thank you guys to everyone who commented. It means so much. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you to YouGov for supporting the show. Go show them some love. YouGov.com/BOE. And don't forget, guys, the most important thing, the future is fun. We'll see you next week.